Okay. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shwa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttaparakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhatam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneswari Prisabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam bangam bhayate girim Jat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinakara Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishvara. Hare Krishna. So we continue our studying on the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So today will be the last session of the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, where's that? Yeah. So we have discussed this in the previous class, Surrender to Krishna, where we stopped in the very famous verse, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Braja verse. Yeah. So today, wait a second, 67. Yeah. So this will be our topic of discussion. Arjuna agrees to fight and victory is assured by Sanjaya. So in the previous class, we have seen the six symptoms of surrender, sorry. So that's a very famous verse that from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Anukulya Sasankalpa Pratikulya Savarjam. Just to refresh our memory. Yeah, here it is.
It's almost sounds like I told you it's a confidence.
What? I told you?
I remember I said it.
Yeah. Anukulya Sasankalpa Pratikulya Savarjam Raksisyate Vishwaso Goptriptve Varanam Tatha Atmanikse Pakarpanye Sadvidha Saranagati. So Sadvidha Saranagati. These six items are six symptoms of surrender, fully surrender. So Anukulya Sasankalpa, we should accept only whatever favorable for our devotional service. And then Pratikulya Savarjama, and reject whatever not favorable. So these two, the first two will be more elaborately discussed in the Nectar of Instruction. Okay, verse number 2 and 3, Nectar of Instruction. These two things, rejecting and accepting. Then Raksisyatiti Viswasu. We have faith. We are convinced that Krishna is the only protector. Goptripte Varanam Tatha. And we convinced that Krishna will maintain ourselves. Atma Niksepa. We feel that we are always helpless, in a helpless condition. Without the mercy of Krishna, without the mercy of Guru, we cannot do anything, especially in the spiritual life. And Karpanye, we consider that Krishna is the only basis of progress in our life. That means everything is based on Krishna. Whatever we are doing, it should be based on Krishna. Whether we go somewhere, when we go somewhere, whether it is in connection with Krishna or not. So, yeah. And today, after hearing the instruction of Krishna, Arjuna is fixed in determination and ready to fight. Sanjaya, after narrating this conversation to Dhritarashtra, ecstatically thinks of the universal form of Krishna and predicts victory for Arjuna, the supreme archer, for he is surrendered to Krishna, the master of all mystics. This is his reply to Dhritarashtra's oblique question, which opened the Bhagavad Gita. So that question, the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, the question by Dhritarashtra, is actually answered at the end. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Parthodana. Okay, text number 67, we continue. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushushave vacham na cha mam yogya shuyati. So Krishna mentioned here na. So Krishna says no. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. If we remember in the 4th chapter, Krishna explained the qualification of Arjuna by which he can receive this transcendental knowledge. Well, Srila Prabhupada actually highlighted that qualification. What is that quality that Arjuna possessed? Anasuyave. Anasuyave means not envious. And here Krishna mentioned that Nachamam yo abhya shuyati. Shuyati means envious. So anasuyu means non-envious. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned that this is the only instruction from Krishna to the devotees, that the devotees will always neglect. Therefore, devotees are considered to be much more merciful than Krishna himself. Yeah, because Krishna says here, this knowledge is very confidential and it should be kept as a secret. We should not tell this knowledge to those who are not tapaskaya, not austere, not bhaktaya, not devoted to Krishna, not shushushave, engage in devotional service, and then nor to one who is envious. Well, if we really follow this verse, well, there's no more preaching activities, because most of the population in the world, they're having all these qualities. These 4 mentioned here, not austere, not devoted, not engaged in devotional service, not having pure hearted. So everybody's envious. Then if we really choose a qualified candidate to be preached, then we don't find anybody. Therefore, the devotees ready to break this instruction, ready to neglect this instruction that given by Krishna, particularly in this verse, because the devotees is by nature. Of course, Krishna is by nature originally. Krishna is the most merciful personality, but more merciful than Krishna is the devotees. Therefore, we neglect this order. Srila Prabhupada in his purport mentioned, actually the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not understandable to those who are sensuous. Even if one is not sensuous, but is strictly following the disciplines enjoined in the Vedic scripture, if he is not devotee, he also cannot understand Krishna. And even when one poses himself as a devotee of Krishna, but is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious activities, he also cannot understand Krishna. Very interesting, very interesting. This morning I was listening a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that more important than simply reading my books are actually practicing it, are actually practicing. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, even when one poses himself as devotee of Krishna, but is not engaged in Krishna conscious activities, he also cannot understand Krishna. That means we know simply theoretically, because bhakti is not simply about theory, but bhakti is, about what we are doing for Krishna. It's a practical. That's why in the 9th chapter, that verse, the second verse, 9.2, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksawa. So Pratyaksha means by our personal experience. Pratyaksawa Gamam Dharmyam Susukam Katam Avyayam. How we can realize the happiness while performing devotional service is by performing it, by doing it. How we can get happiness in Krishna consciousness? That's the question. How we can realize the happiness being in Krishna consciousness is by practicing, devotional service. It's not simply theoretical knowledge. Just like when we know mango is very sweet, ripened mango is very sweet, right? It's very sweet. Okay, we search in internet, oh yeah, the pulp will be colored like this, little bit reddish, little bit yellowish, whatever it is, and it is very soft and juicy. So we have that picture, we imagine that picture, and then the description given is that this mango is very sweet. But unless and until we really get that mango and taste it, we will never feel what is being described here. So similarly, devotional service is also like that. Okay, by chanting attentively, we'll feel much more alive, being nourished in our spiritual activities. Or when we have kirtan in the association of the devotees, we feel like so much bliss, and it surcharge our consciousness. Well, we can quote thousands of slokas from the Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavad Gita about chanting, about having kirtan in the association of the devotees, how important it is. But unless and until we experience dancing ecstatically in the association of the devotees, that's simply like what Srila Prabhupada mentioned as flower in the sky. It's just imagination. So much more than simply collecting information is to put that knowledge into practice. That's called vijnana, realization. That's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned here that one of the qualifications to understand Krishna is, one may pose himself as devotee, but if he doesn't practice Krishna consciousness activities, then one will be failed to understand Krishna. Just like, we are studying the Bhagavad Gita. Now we almost completing the Bhagavad Gita. But then what will happen to us after studying the Bhagavad Gita? We'll find what will happen and what should happen after we study the Bhagavad Gita. That will be explained by Sanjaya. Ityaham Vasudevasya Partasyasya Mahatmana. Asrausam, Romaharsanam. That upon hearing, after hearing this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, Sanjaya, the body of his hand, the hair of his body, sorry, the hair of his body stand on end. So that's happened. Meanwhile, the Dhritarashtra also hearing the conversation from Sanjaya, between Krishna and Arjuna from Sanjaya, but his heart still as hard as stone, does not melt, because the consciousness while hearing is different. The intention while hearing is different. Yeah. text number 68. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to him. He will come back to him. Yeah. Well, basically, this verse is talking about the association of the devotees again. So what is most important activities while in the association, while mingling with the devotees, while surrounded by the devotees, is to have Krishna Katha, to explain, to speak and hear. Somebody will speak and the another will hear the narration, Krishna Katha. And in this way, pure devotional service is guaranteed. Srinvatam Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyanta Stohi Abhadrani Vidurmati Surit. So Hridyanta Stohi Abhadrani. Abhadrani means impurity. The dirt within the heart will be cleansed. Unless our heart is purified, pure devotional service cannot take place. So our heart is just like lotus. So our heart is like lotus. If this lotus of our heart is full of dirt, Krishna will not so inclined to come and dance on that lotus. But when this lotus is, blooming nicely, it's clean. So Krishna is very much attracted to that lotus. And he will come to our heart and dance there. So that's pure devotional service. And the process, the purification, the purificatory process is taken place when we constantly discussing about this knowledge, transcendental knowledge about Krishna Katha. Generally, it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed amongst the devotees only, for those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. Prabhupada mentioned here that offenders, those who try to explain Bhagavad Gita using their own mental concoction, is actually offenders. Why offenders? Well, let's analyze like this, because most of the Bhagavad Gita's conclusion commented by the non-devotees, ultimately their conclusion is that God has no form. As Krishna mentioned, avyaktam vyaktima panam manyantima abuddhayaha. So abuddha means the less intelligent people. Abuddhayaha, the less intelligent people. Avyaktam vyaktima panam. They are thinking that in the beginning I have no form. Now I assume some particular form as Krishna. And after this form disappear from the eyes of general people, then God is actually simply a void, simply formless. Then it is actually an offensive. It is offensive because, let's say, for example, take the prayer of Muslim. Yeah, in Islam, in Muslim, they pray, they are saying Allahu Akbar. That means God is great. But their conclusion is that God has no form. Well, when we say God is great, great means something big. And something big, it should have some form. It should have some form. So that's also like the Mayavadis. They try to, praising God, but ultimately God has no form. That's actually offensive. Just like when you approach somebody and you say like, oh, your eyes is so beautiful, your ear is like this, your eyes like a lotus petal, but ultimately actually your face is void. You don't have any face. Then it's actually an offense, because in the beginning you glorify somebody and at the end you just smash them down, saying that, well, ultimately you are nothing, you are formless. So in that sense, it is offender. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mentioned that the greatest offender to Krishna is actually the Mayavadi. And whenever Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur walked on the street, the sannyasis, the Mayavadi sannyasis, they used to tremble. They're afraid because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to, attack them. Literally, we say attack them and catch them and shake their body, saying that why you are saying that God has no form, and he was so heavy. So that's offender. Those who make the conclusion that God has no form is actually offender. That's the point that Srila Prabhupada wanted to say here, because if we see the commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita of the non-devotees, ultimately they are leading to that perspective. Text number 69. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So this is about the preacher, they're very dear to Krishna. Tachatasman manusyeshu kaschin me priya kritamah. Text number 70. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of our worship, and I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worship me by his intelligence. 71. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwells. Purport to text number 71. The 67th verse of this chapter, in the 67th verse of this chapter, the Lord explicitly forbade the Gita's being spoken to those who are envious of the Lord. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is for the devotees only, but it is so happens that sometimes the devotee of the Lord will hold open class. And in that class, not all the students are expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It is explained here that although not everyone is a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining that there must be some hope of preaching. In terms of preaching, there must be always some hope. Just like when we distribute books, for example. Well, not every single person that you meet, that you try to give the book, will take the book. Well, that's expected, that somebody will, will say no to you. Maybe 1 out of 100 will take. So that is expected. But still, there is a hope here. There is a hope by which we can spread Krishna consciousness movement. That's why Srila Prabhupada gave the example here, that sometimes the devotees, making program. And I remember before the lockdown in 2019, last year, not last year, 2019, in the Gora Purnima festival here in Mayapur. So we have every year actually Gita Mela, the festival of the Bhagavad Gita. So every single day, in some particular of time, I think that's during the lunch break. So somebody will give a lecture on the stage, giving a lecture, and to whoever will sit. Sometimes I saw that only 1 or 2 people sitting listening to the lecture, but still the speaker is, very enthusiastic to speak about Krishna Katha, because, there must be somebody who is not envious of Krishna and who's like interested, at least interested, get attracted, interested, would like to know more. But there are 4 types of people who approach Krishna. Atho Jigyasu, Arthati, Gyanicha. One may be Jigyasu, like he is want to know. He wants to know. He's inquisitive. So that's actually a good start, good beginning. So yeah, there's always hope in preaching Krishna consciousness, and especially when we held kirtan in the public place, there must be some fortunate soul who will come sooner or later to Krishna consciousness because of hearing the holy name. Yeah. So text 69 describing about the preacher is very dear to Krishna, and then text number 70 that whoever studied this Bhagavad Gita will ultimately should worship Krishna, should worship Krishna. But after studying the Bhagavad Gita, if we don't come to the conclusion that Krishna should be worshipped, then it is just Shrama Eva Kevalam, simply a waste of time. Studying the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, it takes a lot of time. But after studying these 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, still we don't understand that Krishna is God and what is our position, we meant to worship him. And it's simply a waste of time, right? Yeah, and this is the qualification by which you can understand the Bhagavad Gita, having faith and not envious. Faith is very important. It is described in the 9th chapter, text number 3, Asradadana Purusha, Dharma Shasya Parantapa, Apravyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. So Asradhadana, Asrada means no faith. Those who have no faith, Mrityu Samsara Vartmani, they will come again to this material nature. They will fall again. But those who have faith, what happened here? They will attain to the auspicious planet where the pious dwells. Means the spiritual world. Text number 72. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? Are your ignorance and illusion now dispelled? So now as a teacher, Lord Krishna, he wanted to make sure to his disciple Arjuna whether he's listening attentively, whether his doubt is gone now. So Krishna is trying to make sure. He just wanted to confirm to Arjuna. The Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Yeah. So this is the nature of the guru, actually, the spiritual master. Being compassionate. Unless we have this nature of being genuinely compassionate, then actually we cannot become guru. One may be very learned, one may be very famous, but if he's preaching for the sake of getting more follower, getting more fame, more wealth, then he cannot really accept it as a bona fide guru because he has some material motivation. But when one really feel like compassion, oh, he's suffering, these people are suffering. If we study Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, how deep was actually his compassion to all living entities. How deep he was crying and praying when he was in Radha Damodar temple. I am sure that all of you here may have read or heard the pastime of Srila Prabhupada when he was in Radha Damodar temple. Actually, there is one Babaji by the name Hridayananda Das Goswami Babaji. So after a few years preaching in the West, so Srila Prabhupada's disciple started to visit Vrindavan, and of course they tried to collect some information about how was Srila Prabhupada when he was living in Radha Damodar temple. And then they took interview of this Babaji, Hridayananda Das Babaji Maharaj. And then this Babaji said that almost every night, every midnight, I heard as if somebody is crying. I thought that was just simply illusion. But one day, somehow or other, I could not sleep at that night. And then I heard again that sound, that voice that is crying. And then I went to the top roof, and that witness actually Bhaktivedanta Swami. He was sweeping the ground in the front of Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, and then crying, please give me your mercy, please give me your mercy, crying very sincerely. And Hridayananda Das Babaji Maharaj said that I'm convinced that Bhaktivedanta Swami will preach so nicely, and I'm not surprised that now ISKCON is growing so big, because Srila Prabhupada was full of compassion. Many times we heard Srila Prabhupada mention that I have no qualification. I have no qualification. It's just, the mercy of my spiritual master. Yeah, that's how preachers should be, and that's how spiritual masters should be. Compassion, ready to take risk. Prabhupada said, for the sake of saving one soul, we have to ready to sacrifice even 200 gallons of blood. 200 gallons of blood. That means because that soul, that suffering soul, is part and parcel of Krishna, and he's suffering because he's forgetting his original position. So we have to make effort to bring him back, to the right path by which he can understand his original position as Krishna's servant. So we have to be patient, especially when we deal with a new bhakta. How we have to treat them like very nicely, make them feel like really comfortable, and try to make them attached in Krishna consciousness. So just like how we deal with a baby, have to be very delicate. If anybody is teacher here, so you have the experience, especially when you teach like first grade student still learning, start to learn how to read, how to write something. So you have to explain again and again till the student understands the subject matter. So similarly, Krishna here is trying to, get the confirmation from Arjuna whether his ignorance is gone, whether his doubt is gone after hearing this explanation. If not, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, Krishna is ready to re-explain any point or even to start from the beginning if it is required. So that's the qualification of real guru, real spiritual master. Text number 73. Arjuna Vacha Nastu Moha Smritir Labdhat Vat Prasadam Mayachyuta Stito Smigata Samdeha Karishe Vachanam Tava. So Karishe Vachanam Tava. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and I'm prepared to act according to your instructions. Now, this is, if you flash back to the second chapter, text number 7, where Arjuna mentioned, Karpanyado Supahata Subhava Prichami Kram Dharma Samudacheta. So Sisyasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna said that, my dear Krishna, now I am surrendered soul unto you. Please instruct me. You are my spiritual master. I'm your disciple. Please instruct me. But then, after a few verses, we found Arjuna said that, Govinda, I shall not fight. So he surrendered in the second chapter is a half surrender. He said that he surrendered, but then said that no, I will not fight. But here is actually Arjuna's full surrender. Lord Krishna mentioned all this stuff, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, surrender to me. Arjuna finally mentioned here, Karishe Vachanam Tava. I will act according to your instruction. So that means now Arjuna's doubt is gone. Who still remember what are the 5 reasons of Arjuna not to fight? Who still remember that part? First chapter and the beginning of second chapter. You still remember 5 reasons?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes. Good example.
One is compassion.
Okay, enough. One is compassion. Other devotees?
A family tradition will stop if there is no men available.
Yeah. What we call
Indecision.
blood dharma. Yeah.
Sinful reaction.
Indecision.
Full reaction. And what is that? Krishna Chaitanya? Indecision. Yeah. And one more?
Enjoyment, bro.
Yeah, enjoyment. So we have to remember this. We have to remember. First, he feels compassion. Arjuna feels compassion. Then second, first compassion. Why? Because he thought that how can I kill my family members, especially Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya. Compassion, he felt compassion. Second is sinful reaction. If we kill them, we'll get sin, especially they are our senior family members. Sin. And then the third one, enjoyment. Okay, if we win the battle, then we get the kingdom, but how we can enjoy without our family members? Okay. The fourth one, the family tradition will be destroyed. The Kula Dharma will be destroyed because men are killed and women being not protected. So from unprotected woman will appear Varna Sankara. When Varna Sankara flourishing in the society, then adharmic activities and family tradition is destroyed. What is that family tradition? To offer Shraddha, to offer Pinda to the forefather. And then in the first section of the second chapter, we find that Arjuna was in indecision, that he was, confused whether we should defeat them or they will defeat us. So Arjuna was perplexed. All right, good. Thank you very much. Yeah, but now when Arjuna mentioned that I'll fight, I will do whatever you want, I will act according to your instruction. That means Arjuna was, convinced that yeah, this should be done. Prabhupada, when a person is liberated, his illusion is over, and he voluntarily surrenders unto the Supreme to act according to his desires. The last illusion, the last snare of Maya to trap the living entity is the proposition that he is God. So this is Mayavadi. Mayavadi is not having the understanding and conclusion that God is formless, but he also wanted to merge with God, he wanted to become God. And that's the greatest snare of Maya. I mentioned here, the last snare of Maya. When we think that I'm God, he's God, everybody is God. After leaving this body, we're going to merge with God and we become God. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. He is so unintelligent that he does not think that if he were God, then how could he be in doubt? That he does not consider. So that is the last layer of illusion. Yeah, this is illusion. Well, of course, illusion because of wealth, illusion because of family members, illusion because of different attachment in this material world. But the biggest illusion is that when we think that I am God, when we think that I am God, that's the biggest illusion. Text number 74. Yeah, here it is. Sanjaya Uvacha. Ityaham Vasudevasya Partasya Cha Mahatmana. Samvaram imam asrausam adbhutam romaharsanam. Sanjaya said, thus have I heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, Vasudeva and Partha. Mahatmana means great souls. So there are two great souls here having conversation. That is Vasudeva, Krishna, and Partha, Arjuna. Samvadam imam asrausam. After hearing this, adbhutam romaharsanam. And so wonderful is that the message, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. So this is happening to Sanjaya, who was attentively listening to the conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. It was wonderful because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was speaking about himself and his energies to the living entity, Arjuna. A great devotee of the Lord. If we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna to understand Krishna, then our life will be happy and successful. So one time Srila Prabhupada mentioned that just try to understand Krishna and our life will be successful. But yet in another lecture, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned, don't try to understand God. What is your qualification to understand God? It seems like two different things, two different opposite things that Srila Prabhupada mentioned. In one hand, Prabhupada said that if you simply try to understand Krishna, your life will become successful. On the other hand, Prabhupada mentioned that don't try to understand God. What is your qualification to understand God? Well, that means to understand God is not so easy. It's not so easy. But when we are sincere to understand God, so Krishna will reveal himself. Aham prakasa sarvasya yugamaya samavritha udho jamna vijanati lokomam ajam avyayam. So Krishna mentioned in the 7th chapter, Naham prakasa sarvasya. I don't reveal myself to everybody. Naham prakasa. Prakas means reveal. So Krishna will not reveal himself to the non-devotees. That's the point. So trying to understand Krishna means engage in devotional service, because that's the only means, that's the only way by which we can understand Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada mentioned, don't try to understand Krishna. What is your qualification to understand Krishna? That means when we try to understand Krishna using our so-called intelligence, then we will be failed, because Krishna cannot be understood simply having good brain. That's like so many professors, so many, scientists. It seems that they are very intelligent, but actually they cannot understand Krishna, they cannot understand God unless they perform devotional service. Text number 75. By the mercy of Vyas, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. So Sanjaya Sanjaya was the disciple of Srila Vyasadeva. I think I mentioned earlier that actually before the battle, Srila Vyasadeva came to Dhritarashtra Maharaj, and actually Vyasadeva, he wanted to grant this boon to Dhritarashtra Maharaj, that he will be able to witness what is going on in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But because Dhritarashtra Maharaj, he knew actually in the deep core of his heart, he knew very well that actually all his son will be destroyed. And he rejected that offer. He rejected that offer because he cannot tolerate, he couldn't bear it to see that all his dear sons, especially Duryodhana, will be killed in the battle. Therefore, he asked Sanjaya to receive this, So he asked that, please, your disciple is here, he's more qualified, so he will narrate everything to me. Otherwise, Dhritarashtra Maharaj would be able to see what is going on in the battle, and his heart will be completely shattered. Well, already completely shattered, simply by hearing the narration from Sanjaya, how all his sons got killed. Vyasa was the spiritual master of Sanjaya, and Sanjaya admits that it was by Vyasa's mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one has to understand Krishna not directly, but through the medium of the spiritual master. Yeah. Tadvajnanatham saguru meva bhigache samipani strotriyam brahmanistam. So in order to understand Krishna Tattva, Sagurum Eva Bhigache, we have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Tadvidi Prani Patina Pariprashnina Sevaya. So these three things should be done. First, we have to approach in the submissive mood. Then we have to inquire submissively and perform service to the spiritual master. Service to the spiritual master. In Bhagavad Gita, all the yoga systems, karma, jnana yoga, and karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, are explained. Krishna is the master of all mysticism. It is to be understood, however, that Arjuna was fortunate enough to understand Krishna directly. So, by the grace of Vyas, Sanjaya was also able to hear Krishna directly. Actually, this is very important point. Actually, there is no difference between hearing directly from Krishna and hearing directly from Krishna via a via bona fide spiritual master like Vyas. The spiritual master is the representative of Vyasadeva also. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, on the birthday of the spiritual master, the disciple conducts the ceremony called Vyasa Puja. Because, yeah, Vyasadeva, of course, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and he's considered to be, great guru, great acharya, and taking from this, that actually by the grace of Vyasa, spiritual master, Sanjaya was able to witness, to hear the conversation, sacred conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So therefore, our seat while giving lecture, actually, that is called Vyasa-san. That seat is called Vyasa-san. Because when we talk, when we give a class, when we give a lecture, actually we are the representative. We becomes the representative of Vyasadeva. We are the representative of the Acharya, the Guru Parampara. Therefore, we chant all this actually Mangalacharan prayer. We are begging the mercy of the Rupa and Sanatan, the six Goswamis especially. and ultimately to Radha and Krishna, and to the devotees, finally to all the devotees, in order to empower us to speak, because we are actually representing Vyasadeva, Srila Vyasadeva, who is actually Krishna himself. So we should not take credit. We should not take any credit when we give class. It's actually not really us, because just like in the airport, okay, in the airport, if we see this belt, conveyor belt, you see, when we just landed, then we came out where the baggage will be taken. There is this belt, so there will be appear from down or somewhere down. I think most of the airport they're doing like this. So our baggage will appear from down and will rotate in this belt, like that. So similarly, the speaker, okay, is actually just like that. There should not be something that we say appear from our mental concoction. It should be from Shastra. It should be something from Shastra, something that we have heard from bona fide sadhu, and something that we have heard from gurus. Not that using our, idea, not that from our mental concoction, we say like that. Just like this belt. This belt does not produce the baggage. The baggage is already there. The luggage is already there. The belt is simply just delivering it. It doesn't produce it. So similarly, our words also, while sitting on the Vyasasana, it should be referring to the sadhu, shastra, and guru. Of course, sometimes we find some devotees giving a lecture, just talking and talking over and over, just giving his own idea without referring to any sastric reference, or But I recently I talked to one of senior devotees here in Mayapur about giving lecture, because I asked him, I've never seen you in the Bhagavatam class. Just I little bit critical, but I'm just for the sake of having some conversation. And he said that, well, I prefer to listen to the Prabhupada class. And I said that, well, when you sit in the association of the devotees hearing Krishna Katha, you will really feel it. And he said that, for me, class means, and he told me, for me, class means slokas that will support your statement, slokas, and then story. Story means Krishna Lila, pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaur Lila, Krishna Lila. So for him, class means sastric reference, and then story, and then the last is little bit joke. Crack some joke in the class. Yeah, of course, different devotees, they have different idea, different vision. But yeah, and he told me, actually, most of these speakers, they simply talking without giving any sastric reference. They may said occasionally Srila Prabhupada said like this, yeah, that's fine. So he preferred to listen directly from Srila Prabhupada. But he keep encouraging me to go to the Bhagavatam class directly. Yeah. And another important point here is that listening directly from Krishna, or listening about Krishna through the spiritual master, are actually the same, because the instruction given actually one, actually sing. Just like the sage of Naimisharanya headed by Sonaka Rishi, asking Sutta Goswami that what happened to knowledge and religiosity after Krishna departed from this earth to his own abode, to Goloka Vrindavan. What happened to this knowledge and religiosity, jnana and dharma? And Sutta Goswami explained, Krishna Swadharma Bhagate Dharma Jnana Adivisa. Kalau Nasta Drishamesa Purana Kodunoditha. So after Krishna departed from this earth to the spiritual world, to Goloka Vrindavan, actually he left this Srimad Bhagavatam. He left the Srimad Bhagavatam because the sages in Naimisharanya are asking that, okay, now Krishna is gone, from whom we shall take instruction, good instruction. Because Krishna is not different from his word. So he left the Srimad Bhagavatam, Purana Arka. So this Purana, this Srimad Bhagavatam is just like the sun, Arka. Purana Arka, Aduno Aditaha. And this Bhagavatam can dispel the darkness, the illusion by which we can see the truth. So like this also, Bhagavad Gita. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that this Bhagavad Gita is actually another manifestation of Krishna's compassion to all living beings. He spoke this Bhagavad Gita because of his compassion. Because not everybody will get the chance, like Arjuna, to sit and hear directly from Krishna. So this Bhagavad Gita is available for us through, of course, the disciplic succession, through the Parampara, spiritual master. And now we get it. And same benefit we will get as how Arjuna got it if we learn, if we study the Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master, the devotees of Krishna. Therefore, when we want to learn about Krishna, we have to approach a devotee, because only the devotee of Krishna understands Krishna. Say Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hoy. Jai Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hoy. So, if you want to understand about Krishna, you have to approach a devotee of the Lord. Text number 76. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. Evam Vrata Swa Priyanama Kipya Jatanurag Tajitta Ujaihi Asatyato Roditi Rauti Gayati Unmada Vandrit Atilokavaya. This is the symptoms. That verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th chapter, explaining that the symptoms of a devotee in ecstasy upon hearing, upon chanting. So, Jatanurago Druta Chita Uchai Asatyato Roditi. He will shout very loudly, he will roll on the ground. Rauti Gayati Unmadavan Drityati. He will act like a madman. So similarly here, Sanjaya is experiencing bliss, spiritual bliss, ecstasy. Just hearing this dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, he is in ecstasy. He takes pleasure. The body of his, the hair of his body stand on them. Text number 77. O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. So how we can remember is by constant hearing. So again and again. So just like Sanjaya here, whenever he remembers Krishna, he feels blissful. Vayam tuna vitsutyama utama sloka vikrame yachrinvatam rasagyanam shvadu shvadu pade pade. Shvadu shvadu pade pade. Again, this is from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That please narrate this narration of Supreme Lord Swadu Swadu Pade Pade again and again, because we always eager to hear. Although we may have heard these pastimes before, but as devotees, we always eager to hear it. Just like Kartik, for example, Kartik Mas, Damodar pastimes. We have heard this since the beginning of our Krishna consciousness. Every year we heard these pastimes. That Krishna broke the pot, Mother Yasoda chased him away, Mother Yasoda caught him, Mother Yasoda bound him, Krishna was crying. Yeah, we heard this every year for one full month. The whole Kartik, we are hearing the same thing again and again. But yet it's always fresh for us, for the devotees. And that should be our mood while hearing Krishna Katha. Then only we can get the benefit, full benefit of hearing Krishna Katha. The moment we think that, oh, I have heard this first time, well, okay, so what? Then our hearing is not maximal. Srila Prabhupada in this purport mentioned, it appears that Sanjaya also, by the grace of Vyas, could see the universal form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna. It is, of course, said that Lord Krishna had never exhibited such form before. It was exhibited to Arjuna only, yet some great devotees could also see the universal form of Krishna when it was shown to Arjuna, and Vyas was one of them. He is one of the great devotees of the Lord, and he is considered to be a powerful incarnation of Krishna. Vyas disclosed this to his disciple Sanjaya, who remembered that wonderful form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna and enjoyed repeatedly. So Sanjaya, upon seeing that universal form, he was into ecstasy. Although this universal form is actually not the ultimate goal for the devotees, but yet Sanjaya felt like so much into ecstasy just witnessing this universal form. He understood that how great Krishna is. It is not enough simply to understand, simply to know that God is great. Well, that information is okay. God is great. But when we understand how He is great, how God is great, then our conviction becomes strengthened. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, many times he mentioned that don't jump directly to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the pastimes of Rasa Lila of Krishna and the gopis. If we jump directly, then we will think that Krishna is simply a playboy. Krishna is simply a mischievous boy. We will think like this because he seems to be immoral. Why he is dancing in a dead night with somebody else's wife? Why? What kind of God he is? No, he is not God. He's just a rascal. We may think like that if we jump directly to the 10th canto. That's why we have to learn the Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto and goes up to the 9th canto. Especially when we learn about the creation, how complex it is, how difficult it is. But when we come to understand that, oh yeah, this whole universe is actually produced from the holes of the hair, what do you call this, the pores of the skin of Mahavishnu. This complex universe, millions of them produced from that person called Mahavishnu. And that Mahavishnu comes from the second Chaturvyuha. The second Chaturvyuha comes from the first Chaturvyuha. The first Chaturvyuha comes from Balaram. and Balaram comes from Krishna. Then we understand, oh yeah, he's the source of this complex universe. He's the one who's creating this. Yes, he's God. Therefore, when we understand that he is God, when he's doing something seemingly according to our material vision is immoral, it's okay because he's God. He can do whatever he wants. And ultimately, everybody is meant to please him. Whatever we are doing actually meant for Krishna's pleasure, because we are the eternal servant of Krishna. But when we don't understand Krishna Tattva, how he is great, then when we read the 10th canto, we'll think that this just a story for the kids before sleeping. We may think like that. It's just mythology. We may think like that also. It's not real. Yeah. Because we don't have the faith and being convinced in our heart that yeah, he's God. Okay. This is the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Yatra Yogeswara Krishna Yatra Partho Danudara Tatra Srir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mysticism, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. That is Sanjaya's opinion. The fight was actually between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. Arjuna was fighting on behalf of his elder brother Yudhishthira because Krishna and Arjuna were on the side of Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira's victory was certain. The battle was to decide who would rule the world, and Sanjaya predicted that the power would be transferred to Yudhishthira. It is also predicted here that Yudhishthira, after gaining victory in his battle, would flourish more and more because not only was righteous and pious, but he was also a strict moralist. He never spoke a lie during his life. Actually, this verse is actually cracking the heart of Dhritarashtra, cracking the heart of Dhritarashtra, as if his heart was attacked by Indra's thunderbolt, just shattered, because Sanjaya, his servant, mentioned this to his master. His servant mentioned this to his master, that your son gonna die. And that's a fact because Krishna is there. So the conclusion is that whenever and wherever there is Krishna and a great devotee, so this thing will follow: opulence, victory, power, and morality. So there are four mentioned here: opulence, victory, power, and morality. Actually, Sakuni, he knows that Krishna is God, Vasudeva is God. Therefore, he asked Duryodhana actually before the battle to go to approach Krishna and ask Krishna to be in his side. So these pastimes that finally Duryodhana foolishly took the choice that he will take all Krishna's armies, because Krishna gave two choices: myself or all my armies, along with the elephants, along with all these weapons. They will fight, but me, myself, I will not fight. Who you choose? Duryodhana choose. Actually, Arjuna got the chance to choose first. Duryodhana was so upset because Duryodhana came first, because both of them actually came simultaneously, and then Krishna told them that you go back, you come back tomorrow, and whoever I see first, he will get the chance to choose first. course, Duryodhana came first, but he sat next to Krishna's head at that time. Krishna is still sleeping. And Arjuna, being a humble devotee, he sat on Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So naturally, when Krishna woke up, opened his eyes, he saw first Arjuna, because Arjuna was on his feet, and Duryodhana was sitting next to his head, being so puffed up. And Krishna said, "Oh, Arjuna, how you doing? Okay, first choice. First, you can choose." So Arjuna said, "I choose you. Even if you don't fight, I want you to be my chariot driver." And Duryodhana, within his heart, he was so joyful. Now I got it. Yeah. And then Duryodhana was, in ecstasy, came to inform Sakuni that he said that Arjuna made a wrong choice. And Sakuni asked, "Did you choose Vasudeva?" And Duryodhana said, "No, why I have chosen? He will be only one person and not fighting. What he gonna do?" And at that time, Sakuni was really upset and blasting bad words to Duryodhana. Yeah, finally, Krishna wanted to see that his devotees should rule over the kingdom, should rule over the world in order to make it flourish and to fulfill actually his word. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chaduskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya. Yeah, these three things. To protect the devotees, to annihilate the demons, and to reestablish the religious principle. Because a good king, Raja Rishi, will make all his citizens to be devotees of the Lord. From Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that to realize oneself by philosophical speculation and by meditation is one process, but to fully surrender unto Krishna is the highest perfection. That is the essence of teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, this is the only essence of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, is to surrender to Krishna, to perform devotional service to Krishna, nothing else. All right, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan gave his last commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Having obtained the boat of the Lord's desire, I have submerged myself in the sea of Bhagavad Gita. Listen to this, it is very poetic. Where I had collected many very wonderful gems of its purport. Due to my great feeling of joy, I cannot raise myself out of the sea. I only hope that the cunning son of Nanda is pleased with me. I, Baladev Vidyabhushan, have with great effort compiled this commentary named Sri Gita Bhushan. May the saintly devotees correct any faults it contains. They are always eager to taste the sweetness of pure love of Sri Govinda, and their hearts are always melting with compassion. So Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan said that may the saintly devotees correct any faults in his commentary. Well, of course, we know that there's no fault at all. His commentary is so nice and yeah, very helpful to help us to understand what Krishna meant in the Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada is taking a lot of reference from his commentary. Srila Srila Chakravarti Thakur also, and also Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary for Bhagavad Gita purport. Yet Baladev Vidyabhushana mentioned that if any mistake, kindly correct me. So thus, with this slide, I would like to apologize also if any mistake I have done all these days throughout our Bhagavad Gita study. Please give me some correction because I'm still studying, I'm still learning also. Yeah, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So presentation is over. If anybody has some comments, some question, please.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for taking your valuable time and sharing to us. It's a mercy of all Acharyas and Prabhupada and Maharaj. We are praying obeisances once again at your lotus feet for taking your time and preaching and teaching us. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Vishnurat Prabhu. Thank you very much for giving you wonderful time. I know it's very hard for you, even doing service at Mayapur, taking class, and you are not only taking our class, you're taking multiple class for different group for Bhakti Sastri. I really appreciate your time, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Actually, I am planning after this, we will study the nectar of devotion, and I will merge both batches, English batches. So they will finish the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita very soon, I think within 1 or 2 weeks. And then meanwhile, you have your test, closed book assessment. So we will study the nectar of devotion together with the second batch, because I can see that not many devotees here, and also in the second batch, as I told you in the beginning, we have like 11 or 12 devotees, but it turned out to 3 or 4. So I'm thinking better just to merge, and later after you completed this batch, complete the Bhakti Sastri, then I will go back to the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita with another batch. Yeah. Parasuram Prabhu, Hare Krishna. You raise your
Yeah, sure,
hand.
Prabhuji.
Parasuram Prabhu, I don't know, earlier. Sorry. You raise your
Hare
hand.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Dandvat Prabhuji. Prabhu, I have a strange question, Prabhu. Can I ask, please?
Yes, please. We have a lot of time.
Prabhu,
Please.
this Yudhishthir Maharaj, not Yudhishthir, Dhritarashtra is the son of Vyasdev,
Hmm.
right, Prabhu?
Yeah,
And he is born blind.
correct.
And because of that, enmity arose between Dhritarashtra and Pandu and Dhritarashtra.
Hmm.
So again, this led to this war. So my question is, why didn't Vyasadev give the power of vision beforehand to Dhritarashtra?
Okay. First of all, actually, this enmity, well, not exactly enmity, but it is a subtle envy actually in Dhritarashtra's heart to Pandu. Because first of all, Dhritarashtra, being the eldest one, he should be the king. But because he was born blind, why he's blind? Of course, because the fault of his mother, that his mother was afraid, saying Vyasadeva, and so she closed her eyes, and he was born blind. And Pandu's mother was scared and perspiring, sweating so much, with such mentality, scared. She was pale. Then Pandu was born like, his body is very delicate, very easy to get sick. Okay, and Vidura is another story. Of course, Dhritarashtra has this little envy in the beginning, but that envy becomes bigger when Sakuni entered the kingdom, because Sakuni was the one who provoked his envy. Okay, that's first part of your question. Second is that why Vyasadeva did not give the vision to Dhritarashtra beforehand. Actually, this vision is not the vision by which he can see like this normal to cure his blindness. No, just the vision of seeing this battle from his own room, to see the battle, not the vision to cure his blindness by which he will be eligible to become the king, to become the ruler. Why? Yeah, because
Prabhu, can I
Yes,
give a comment on that?
yeah, please, Vishwambar Prabhu.
Yeah. I was reading 9th canto, 24th chapter there. So exactly I was reading yesterday. And it's not mentioned, but I heard is also that the mother of Dhritarashtra, when Prabhupada was reading commentary that brother, during this time, there's a process that brother can impregnate the sister-in-law. And in that case, when the husband is not eligible to, so Vyasdev was doing this because mother name is Parasar Muni, no,
Satyavati.
Satyavati told her to do that. So he agreed, and that process was a little bit different. So when Dhritarashtra's mother approached Vyasdev, and when she looked at the form of the Vyasdev Muni, because he's a sage, right? Blind hairs, and so she kind of scared and she closed his eyes. So Vyasdev says, okay, you will have the son, but he will born blind. So when the next time it came, the Pandu's mother came. So that time, Satyavit, no, again I forgot the name. Vyasdev mother told ki, when you approached him, don't close your eyes. So she approached Vyasdev.
Ambalika, I think.
Ambalika, yeah. So she approached, but that time she didn't close her eye, but she was kind of trembling. And she says, okay, because you are trembling by looking at me, you will have the son, but he will born very weak. So that's why Pandu was born weak. Born weak. Yeah. It was in 9th canto, 24th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you very much, Vishwambar Prabhu. So yeah, Parasuram Prabhu, it was like that. So it's not that Vyasadeva, he wanted to cure his blindness, but he just wanted to give the power by which he can see from far what is going on in the battle. Any other?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, if there's no more, we can stop here, and I will send.
Prabhu, one more. Can I ask, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
This Sanjay is also a devotee, Prabhu. He got so much
Yes.
of power to see the Mahabharata. So is it mentioned about his devotions anywhere? Like to hear, Prabhu.
Maybe it is there, but definitely he's a great devotee, but I never specifically heard about what he was doing, Sanjaya. So I don't want to speculate. But yeah, definitely he is a great devotee, and he is the direct disciple of Vyasa, Srila Vyasa, the incarnation of Krishna. And regarding his pastime, his lila, I never heard except this one, that he is narrating the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, you have heard any pastime about Sanjaya? Okay, he disappeared. All right, so yeah, that's we cover our study on the Bhagavad Gita. First 6 chapter about karma, middle 6 chapter about bhakti, last 6 chapter about Gyan. But actually, in every nook and corner of Bhagavad Gita, we find only bhakti, especially in Srila Prabhupada's purport. We cover the 5 subject matter which is discussed in the Bhagavad Gita: Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. So who is Ishvara? Ishvara is Krishna. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhava. That verse establishes Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Yeah. And the word Sri Bhagavan Uvacha also confirm that Krishna is the Bhagavan, Supreme Krishna, Ishvara, Jiva, our position as Jiva. Mamaivam Jiva, okay, we are part and parcel of Krishna. And then Ishvara Jiva Prakriti, especially in the 14th chapter, we discuss a lot about nature and the three modes of material nature. Kala, Sahasra, Yuga, Paryantam. Krishna explained about time there, and karma, of course. The full 6th chapter in the beginning talk about karma. Okay, we discussed all this topic. Okay, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
In our closed book questions, there's one question, list 6 symptoms of surrender. So I didn't find that anyway.
Sorry?
6 symptoms of surrender. What are the 6 symptoms of surrender?
Oh, you missed it in the previous class. Anukulya Sasang.
Yeah, I remember somebody asked that question.
Huh?
Somebody asked that question last class, but I think maybe network problem or something.
Yeah, it is there in the purport of Sarva Dharman Parityaja verse. Also, you can, these are the 6 symptoms. There's that Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Yeah, actually, this is from Srila Prabhupada quoted from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Yeah, these are the 6 symptoms of fully surrender. Sadvidam Saranagati. So don't worry, I will share this PowerPoint presentation so you can see there.
Actually, yesterday I was reading from Macmillan edition, so this was not there in that.
Oh, really?
This verse was not there, verse and translation. That's why I was looking.
Yeah.
So now when I saw in New Bhagavad,
because that Macmillan edition, if we remember the past times, actually Brahmananda Prabhu came to Macmillan Company. He wanted to give this Bhagavad Gita for printing because Srila Prabhupada asked him. But then after he talked with the manager of this Macmillan, yes, actually the manager of Macmillan was searching for Bhagavad Gita because Macmillan Company is actually printing different books on religion, but there's only one book is missing, and that is Bhagavad Gita. And that manager said that, oh yeah, we are looking for Bhagavad Gita. And Brahmananda Prabhu said, we have this Bhagavad Gita. Can you have a look into it? And then the manager said that this commentary is too large, too big. We have to cut some of Srila Prabhupada's purport. And then they cut it off. So therefore it is not there. But when Srila Prabhupada establishes BBT, then they reprint it. So that's Srila Prabhupada full commentary. So the Macmillan edition is not containing all Srila Prabhupada's purport because it should be cut because they had some maximum limit of printing. All right.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, one last question if you don't mind.
Lakshmi Narasimha Prabhu, please.
Prabhuji, Prabhu, sorry for asking this question. Prabhu, so we have Gnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So if the people, those who are in the Gnana Yoga or Dhyana or Karma, I mean, is it the Bhakti Yoga is the only possible way for the liberation? Not only for this yoga but for other yogas also. I mean, if we need to go back to kingdom of the god, spiritual planet, so is the bhakti is the only way, or either they can go with the gnana yoga also?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your question. If simply wanted to go back, to go to the kingdom of God, even the Jnani also can go there. The Jnani can go there also. So by Jnana Yoga, what is the conclusion of Jnana Yoga? What is the conclusion of the Jnani? That most of the Jnani, they are impersonalists. It is described that the Chatukumara, they are Brahmavadi, impersonalists. Yeah, they are Brahmavadi. So they are Jnani. Chatukumara is a Jnani. So to go to the kingdom of God, because Brahma Jyoti is also kingdom of God, part of the spiritual world. So spiritual world, just to enter the spiritual world, okay? We are not talking about to enter Krishna's palace. We are talking about to enter the kingdom. To enter the kingdom is different with entering the palace of the king.
Okay.
So the Mayavadi, the Gyanis, they enter the Brahma Jyoti through Jnana Yoga, but they cannot enter Krishna's private place, private area. Okay, just like you can come to a country, but you cannot come closer to the king. So similarly, like this, through Jnana, those who are Mayavadi, Brahmavadi, they will come to the Brahma Jyoti, and that is spiritual world. But because they don't find enjoyment there, and they come back here. That's like we go to a country, but we just come to the edge. Just we have nothing to do there. There's no enjoyment, because the full enjoyment will be in the king's palace, full of facility, right? Because we don't find that this place is not enjoyable. Okay, why I have to stay in this country? Let me go back to my previous place. So like that. So through Jnana Yoga, they can go to Brahma Jyoti, that is kingdom of God, but not palace of God. So that's the difference. And through Bhakti Yoga only, we can enter into the kingdom and also to the palace of God and having some lila with God, conversation, talking, playing, whatever. So that can be done only by Bhakti. But Jnana Yoga, the Jnanis, they will go only to the Brahma Jyoti, and that's it. Therefore, Chatukumara, before they were only Brahmavadi, but after, what is it? That,
Vaikuntha Darshan.
yeah, Vaikuntha Darshan. They get the realization first because of smelling this tulasi makaranda vayuhu, the smell of the tulasi offered from the lotus feet of the Lord. And then they get Krishna's darshan. Yeah. Then they have higher realization. There is something beyond this conception of Brahman, and that is the Bhagavad. Okay.
Sure, Prabhu. So that means, if once we go back to the spiritual kingdom, that means we will not come back in general, they say. So that means that is only if they enter into the Vaikuntha or Goloka, then they may not come back. But till that other places, there is a chance to come back then.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tadhama paramamama. What is that? Natad basayate shuryo nasasanko napavaka. Yad gatva na nivatante tadhama paramamama. Yeah, Krishna said that. Then tadhama paramamama. Yad gatva na nivatante. Those who have reached my abode, they will not come back. That means those who reach Vaikuntha, they will not fall down. But for the sake of Krishna's pastime, well, devotees may come down to the material world. There's no problem with that. But they will always aware with their position. They will not be affected by Maya. That's the understanding. Okay, last.
sorry, Prabhu. Related to
Okay.
that, same. Sorry, Prabhuji. So there also there is a Maheshwara Dham, like Lord Shiva's Kailash, and then that is also shows in that pictures, spiritual and material worlds when they are describing. So Mahesh Dham. So even I heard like if some people, there are special category of people, they will worship Narayana, but they will come through the Lord Shiva. They will be entering into that. So even those people, those enter into the Kailash. So they're also they're also into the spiritual world itself, or there are also chances to come back again, Prabhu?
Kailas is a special place because it is like in the border between spiritual world and material world. If they worship Narayan along with Lord Shiva, so they will promote themselves to the spiritual world. But if they simply reach Kailas and discontinue their worship and get the allurement of material enjoyment there, because there is material enjoyment because it is the border, half, half spiritual, half material. So there is a chance. So the point here that we have to note down, we have to understand is that as long as we still have the mentality to enjoy separately from Krishna, there will be always chance to fall down. That's the only principle. But the moment we fed up with this material world, then we'll promote ourselves to the spiritual world, the palace of God.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, the last comment or question from Vanamali Prabhu before we close.
So, how in the last attack of Maya, that is we will think we are God.
Can you repeat once again?
How the last attack of Maya is that we are think ourselves as God.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the last snare of Maya, or the biggest illusion, when we think that we are God. Yes, because we are not God. When we think that we are God, that means we are in a big illusion. When we think that, okay, I am a father or I am a king, well, okay, that's also illusion. That is fake. That is called upadi, designation, false designation, arises from false ego. When we get the body of a pig, we think that I'm pig. That is false. That is Maya. When we think that I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm Indonesian, that is false, right? That is Maya. But at the same time, it is true. Because I'm born in India, I'm thinking I'm Indian. So I am Indian. That is false, right? But at the same time, it seems to be true. But when we think that I am God, that's completely, completely the biggest illusion. So yeah, when we try to become God, actually, that's the biggest illusion. What is the confusion here? I think Srila Prabhupada's statement is pretty clear that yeah.
My confusion is that after coming ISKCON, many devotees, including me, attacked by Maya, but not the last layer.
Even
I
after
don't think by reading ISKCON philosophy, I believe attacked by last layer of Maya.
yeah. Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is not that once we come to ISKCON, we'll be immediately free from Maya. Depend on our attitude also, how serious we are practicing. How serious we are practicing. Yeah, Maya is very strong. Therefore, one time Srila Prabhupada was taking darshan here in Mayapur in the front of Sri Radha Madhava. He was offering obeisances. He raised up and folded his hand in the front of Radha Madhava and just look at the deities for, quite long time. And then he finished his prayer, he finished praying and offered obeisances and walked out. And one of his disciples asked Srila Prabhupada, what are you praying for? Prabhupada said that, I'm praying to Krishna that please protect me from Maya. Even Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee, we understood that he's pure devotee. Maya cannot touch Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada prayed to Krishna that please protect me from Maya. And what about us? Doesn't mean that as soon as we join ISKCON, we will be free from Maya. No, because Maya is so strong. Mama Maya Dura, Krishna's energy. Unless we fully surrender to Krishna. What is Mama Maya Dura? How's that verse go? Devi Saguna Mayi Mama Maya Mam Evaye Prapadyante.
Te Maya me tam
So Prapadyante means fully surrender. Then we'll be free from Maya if we fully surrender. Now, if we still have some other agendas, although we are officially initiated devotees or joining ISKCON, we are claiming to be one of ISKCON members. But if we still have some material agenda, then Maya will be there, will remain there. But at least now, up to some point, we raise ourselves to higher consciousness. At least we understand that when we are in Maya, we are aware that, oh yeah, it was Maya, I'm in Maya. But before coming to ISKCON, we were in Maya and we don't know that we were in Maya. Only after coming to Krishna consciousness, after joining ISKCON, we heard this word, sense gratification. Did you hear this word before you joined ISKCON? Sense gratification?
No, Prabhu. People, all
We
people
just
are encouraging us to do that.
yeah. So at least up to some degree, now at least we know that, okay, I'm in Maya, at least. But before coming to ISKCON, we don't know that we are in Maya. So that means at least we detect the disease. Then we have the medicine to cure that disease. But if we get sick, but we don't know what kind of disease we have, then we don't know how to treat it. But when we have knowledge, oh yeah, this is the symptoms, this is the disease, this is the correct medicine. Oh yeah, this is Maya. How to get rid from this Maya is by performing devotional service, chant Hare Krishna. Maya Jalle Bada Hoya Chomichi Kajalan. We are in the net of Maya. But yeah, just chant Hare Krishna. Eneche Oshadi Maya, Nasibarulagi, Harinama Maha Mantra, Lautu Mimagi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come and give this medicine to cure us from Maya. And Lautu Mimagi, take this medicine for free. Yeah, at least we know our disease, and in that way we have the understanding and we know how to treat. That's my response. All right.
So I have one more question from previous question.
Mm.
How the Chatuskumar entered the Vaikuntha? They are
How-
Brahmavadis, not devotees. And how
Correct.
they, without doing any service to Krishna, they are entered Vaikuntha.
That's true. How they enter Vaikuntha? They did not enter Vaikuntha yet. What happened was Lord Narayan came out from Vaikuntha to see them. So Vaikuntha was guarded in the seven with the seven gates actually.
Okay.
Seven, yeah. So they did not enter Vaikuntha yet because they were quarreling with Jai and Vijay. So Lord Narayan came out to see the Chaturkumara and give them his darshan. So that was taking place. Not that they entered Vaikuntha. They're still outside the Vaikuntha.
And when did they hear Krishna, Krishna's first time from Krishna?
Sorry?
Not first time. Brahma heard Gayatri Mantra from Krishna's flute, like in our parampara. Brahma heard the Gayatri Mantra from his ear, from Krishna's flute. Then when did the Chatuskumars heard anything like that? When they connected to parampara first.
When Chaturkumara connected to Parampara first.
First with direct to Krishna.
Yeah. as I remember, it is described in the 6th canto of Bhagavatam. Actually, Chatukumara, he surrendered to Sankarsan, and heard the Bhagavatam from Sankarsan. Sankarsan is the four-handed form of the Lord from the Chaturvyuha incarnation of Lord Balaram. So from there, actually, in that verse, Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swa Vivarena Chakara Tesam Sansoba Maksara Jusam Apichita Tanmo. Actually, when they met Lord Vishnu, their body and mind immediately changed. So their body and mind immediately changed. This is described as Chakara Makaranda Vayu. And smelling this tulsi leaves offered from the toes of Lord Vishnu, that actually changed their mind. They get a lot of purification and they become purified. Then we understood that simply by getting this prasadam, tulsi prasadam, just the smell carried by the wind enter into their nostril. So their mind, their mentality changed. So from Brahmavadi to devotees of the Lord. And after getting this purification, they surrender to Sankarsan and hear the Srimad Bhagavatam from Sankarsan.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I shall send the closed book assessment when you're ready. 1 week is okay from now. We shall have our test.
Maybe please give 2 weeks, Prabhuji. End of February, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is for 24th, maybe 6th.
Yeah, meanwhile also I want to finish the 6th chapter with the second batch that they will merge. We'll study the next devotion together.
So, can you send open book assessment now?
Yeah. For open book, I will choose 2 questions from this unit, from the last 6 chapters. And yeah, please, those who are pending with the open book assessment from the previous unit,
I have previous 2 pending.
Yeah.
And all 45 slokas. So I have some slokas